Hey everybody. So I want to talk about goaltenders, particularly goaltending tandems, and how important they're going to be for the upcoming season in the NHL, and talk about which teams that really kind of affects and which teams that's a good thing for, and which teams are really going to be hurt by the condensed schedule this coming season. So before I begin, I just ask that you please subscribe if you are new and hit that thumbs up button. Both those things help out so much and are greatly appreciated. But let's get into it here. If everything goes to plan, which again is an if, nothing is official yet, but if everything goes to plan, the NHL season is going to be starting up in mid-January with a 56-game season for this coming year. The NHL is going to be jamming a ton of games into a fairly short period of time, because they need to be done with the playoffs by the end of June if they want to have a normal 2021-22 season, which I really think is the goal. So they're going to be playing a lot of games in a very short amount of time, and you're going to be seeing teams playing 4, maybe even 5 games a week at points during this season to fit all of these games in. It's going to be tough on the players, and it's going to be really tough on the goaltenders, especially teams that rely heavily on one goaltender to play a majority of the games and be the clear-cut starter. Those guys are going to have an issue this year with just how many games that they're going to be playing, how a lot of back-to-back situations, how often they're going to be playing. It's set up, it's going to work out much better for teams that have a goaltending tandem and have a kind of a 1A, 1B type situation versus teams that rely heavily on one guy to start a large majority of the games and have a backup who only plays, maybe 15 games or 20 games in a normal season. So if we look at goaltending starts from last year, we can really see which teams this is greatly going to affect. Carey Price led the NHL last season with 58 games started. Now, I don't remember exactly how many games Montreal ended up playing in the regular season, but it was probably right around 70. He started 58 out of 70 games. That's a lot of hockey, and that is relying heavily on one guy to play a lot of minutes and play a lot of games. And that kind of workload just isn't going to work in this condensed season coming up, where there's going to be lots of back-to-back games, and you're going to be playing a lot throughout the week. Montreal saw this coming, and I think Montreal deserves a lot of credit for this, because they went out and they got Jake Allen. They traded for Jake Allen from the St. Louis Blues, and they finally got Carey Price, a capable and suitable backup who can take some of that workload and some of that pressure off of Carey Price's shoulders. And this is something that Montreal desperately needed to do. They had been relying way too heavily on Price over the last few years. They were playing him way too much. They were wearing him out. And what they were able to do is finally get him an adequate backup. And now heading into this condensed season, they have a guy behind Price who can actually play a decent number of games and take some of that pressure off. A team that this also affects that really did not do anything is the Winnipeg Jets. Connor Hellebuyck, Vezina Trophy winner last year, played 56 games last season. Again, I don't remember exactly how many Winnipeg played, but that is a large majority of the Winnipeg Jets games last season. And they've stuck with the same backup goaltender in Laurent Brossoit for this coming season. They really didn't do anything to change the backup goaltending situation, and Brossoit is an okay backup at best. He's never really put up good numbers in the NHL. He's never really had to play a lot of games because they've relied so heavily on Hellebuyck, and he's been such a workhorse for them. Well, that worries me heading into this season, because Hellebuyck is not going to be able to play, or such a large percentage of the games this year, especially with so many back-to-back situations. Or if they do try and play him that much, he's probably going to get worn out rather quickly and might even get hurt because of just how much that workload they're putting on him. So it's really a tale of two different teams here. Montreal saw this coming, went out and got a better backup, and now they kind of have a guy that they can play a decent amount with Jake Allen. And Winnipeg did not do anything, and they're still relying heavily on Hellebuck, and now it's kind of a question mark as to how many games is he going to actually be able to play, and how much of that workload is he going to be able to keep, and how much more is Brossoit going to have to play this coming season, and that's a large question mark. Overall, goaltending tandems kind of have been the way a lot of teams have done things over the past few years. We've seen it go more and more towards, a 60-40 split with a 1A, 1B type guy, rather than a guy coming out and having your starting goaltender play like 80-something% of the games, or, start 65, 70 games in a season. You really don't see that anymore because these goaltenders are getting worn out, and the importance of a good backup goaltender, or even a split between starters, it has become more and more of a thing in the NHL over the past few years, and that is really going to benefit teams this coming year with a condensed schedule. So when you look at, some teams that rely heavily on their starter, a team like Winnipeg, a team like Tampa Bay with Andrei Vasilevsky, a team like St. Louis with Jordan Binnington, these are guys that play a ton of games. Frederik Andersen in Toronto, although now with Jack Campbell there, that was, I think, a really solid trade for the Maple Leafs, because Campbell's going to be able to take some of that workload off of Andersen. Teams that normally rely heavily on one guy are going to have to figure something out with the backup situation and take some of that workload off of the starters. We've seen Montreal already do it. Some teams really haven't made any changes, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. But I think this condensed schedule is certainly going to benefit teams that already kind of have two high-level goaltenders. A team like the Columbus Blue Jackets with Merzlikins and Korpisalo. A team like the Boston Bruins with Tuukka Rask and Jaro Halak. A team like the New York Rangers with Igor Shesterkin and Alexander Georgiev. Like, these teams that were already running two goaltenders a pretty decent amount, and splitting the season more evenly than having just one guy play a ton of games and one guy just come in every once in a while. It's really going to benefit those tandem teams, and I think you're going to see most teams are going to have to run a tandem this year, and for some of these teams that don't necessarily have that high-end second goaltender, I think this is going to be kind of a detriment to them, and it's going to be something to watch. How many games can Andrei Vasilevsky play before you get him hurt or you wear him out completely? How many games can Hellebuck play? They don't have the backup goaltenders there. Binnington, now with Jake Allen gone to Montreal, to kind of take some of that workload off of Price. Now Ville Husso, who's never really even played an NHL game, is the backup goaltender to Jordan Binnington now. So how many games is he going to play? And, out of 56 games, is Jordan Binnington going to have to play like 45 of them? That would be way too much in such a short amount of time. So it's something to watch this coming season, and the importance of having two, not just one good goaltender, but two good goaltenders, is really going to be pushed to the forefront this coming season. And it's going to be something to keep an eye on. These teams that normally play one guy, a large majority of the time, are going to have to make some sort of adjustment. And these teams that normally run a tandem, I think, are going to have a definite advantage when it comes to goaltending this coming year. But I just wanted to talk about that. Obviously, goaltending is huge in the NHL, and your team's not going anywhere if you don't get good goaltending. And it's going to be a really different year this year with so many games in such a short amount of time. You have to have two good goaltenders, or you're probably going to be in trouble this coming year. Just because the starter guy is not going to be able to play 4 games in a week. Like, you're going to have, especially with a lot of back-to-back situations, you're going to have to take some of that workload off. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our Patreon, merchandise store, and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.